15 minutes.
So I'm going to pour. All right. So welcome everybody to our last agent panel of the year. Yep. Here, hold on a second. Is my screen screwed up still? Sorry. Here we go. There, that's the one. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm the Director of Training, Regional Director of Training for Northwest Real Estate Brokers out of Spokane, Washington. I am joining you today from beautiful Boise, Idaho, with beloved Miss Michelle Moltar at my side. And we're here to put together a panel of agents for you today that are in different places in their business, and all have do business planning to some degree. And the goal of today is to really kind of expose you to the different things people do to prepare for business planning, why they business plan, all those things. And we have a great panel for you today. I'm really excited, and everyone's been so gracious to join us, and really appreciate their participation. So with that, let's meet our panelists. We'll start. So here's all our panelists. We'll start with Ernie and Christine Gentile. So just panelists, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, maybe where you came from, how many years in business, and then what business planning has meant to your production.
I think I'm Ernie still. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Got to start on the right note. Okay. Hi, my name is Ernie Gentile, and this is it's been 5 full years with Coldwell Banker, and just started the 6th year.
Awesome.
And I'm Christine Gentile, and I've been a realtor for 6 years. The first year I was with a different company, and then when he got his license, we joined forces, and 5 years with Coldwell Banker, and it has been great. Great.
Neat. And how has business planning kind of helped your production?
Since the second day we started, we obviously, like many of us, tried a lot of different things, and pretty much continued with those things to this time. And the things that we could do and we felt comfortable in doing, we stuck with, and it seems to have done well for us. We've exponentially grown our business since the first year.
That's great. That's awesome. All right. We'll go to Miss Chelsea Seaburn.
Hi, Miss Chelsea. Just very new, so just passed my 1-year mark with Coldwell Banker and as a realtor. So awesome. Yeah, brand new to it all still.
Yeah, right. And that's part of the reason why, by the way, you were recommended, because it's like, wow, Chelsea's a really good planner. But you're probably gonna plan differently than Christine and Ernie and Jonathan and Bob, right? And so thank you so much for joining us. I think it's awesome that you were willing to participate. And because we have probably a lot of new agents watching this as well, just so you know. So your peeps are out there. We got your back.
All right.
Right on. Jonathan.
Hello, Jonathan Bick. I've been with Coldwell Banker and Eric here and his brother and Melinda almost 20 years. So they are like my family now. Gosh, I've always been a planner. My background is telecommunications, fiber optic networking. I did that for the military, and then retired from the military, and had no job when I moved here to Spokane because it was 9/11, 2001, and a good buddy asked me to come into real estate, and I said, I don't know nothing about real estate. And they said, how many times did you move while you were in the military? And I said, oh my goodness. He said, yeah, you know more about real estate than you think. Right. So, but yeah, good military background, lots of planning involved in just about every aspect of everything I've ever done. So it was no different coming into this business, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it and what that's going to look like. And of course, I had some wonderful coaches along the way too. So, but I would say business planning, essential it's absolutely essential. So
Yeah.
I hope you learn a lot from this. I'll give you as much
Yeah.
information as I know.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. And then last but not least, our very own Bob Van Allen.
Well, good morning, Washington. Good afternoon, Idaho. Glad to be on this panel with everybody. So for those of you that don't know, I'm on the management side of the business with Coldwell Banker, obviously. I have been for the last 8 years. But before I went into management, I actually did sell real estate, believe it or not, for about 10 years. Got my real estate license in 2003 at the age of 23. And I believe very much in intentionally planning your future, not letting things happen accidentally, but doing whatever you can to have a plan in place and to actually achieving that plan. So some of the things that I'll be talking about, I did as an agent when I was in production, and I still have that same mindset in leading the company as well.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Just as a little friendly reminder, we want you to participate, those of you who are viewing, and you can use the Q&A section of Zoom to post your questions. That way we can make sure they get answered, because then that queues those questions and keeps them in play until they're answered. Then it goes on to the next question. So it's a little easier to keep track of than the chat. So just as a little housekeeping item, please use that. And then obviously the attendees will be muted during the webinar. And if you need any sort of assistance, you can private chat Michelle or email her directly at mmolitor@cbboise.com. So those are housekeeping items. Let's go to our first question. So what do you find most valuable about business planning? And I'll just this is a general question that all of you can answer. So I'll just go from my left to right. And so I'll start with Christine and Ernie, if they can speak generally what they find most valuable about it.
Valuable is that it really puts the planning top of mind, and it really makes it a forward thinking process. And for some of us, we're not maybe forward thinkers. We run into a lot of our clients that aren't, future thinking, and we tend to be that way, but you can learn to be that way. And business planning will help you to do that, because you're setting aside the time. You're having a conversation, which we do a lot because we're more high communication. So if you don't have, we have each other. But if you don't have that, we just strongly encourage you, get with your sales manager and have the conversation. Talk about your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Those are things that all have to do with business planning. And so it keeps it, top of mind. Right now in December is when we're really going to tackle it. And being a part of this is encouraging us to do it a little bit earlier. Good. But, it gives us that time to evaluate what we've done, what has worked, and decide and determine to improve on whatever we did last year, this year.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. Jonathan, how about you?
Yes, that's pretty much in line with everything I was thinking about too. Reevaluation of what I do and what I do good and what I don't do so well. And the other side of me that's not here right now is my son, Brandon, who works with me every day. He's been working with me for 4 years now. And he keeps me in check about reminding me of all those things that I don't do so well. So, but that business planning aspect of it, I just had I wrote down reevaluating the different processes and making corrections. And so I am obviously military minded, so I am process oriented and checklist driven. And my day starts out with checklists, and everything that I do has a process to it. And these last 2 years, business planning has just been so crucial with the way things have changed. And then what we're looking at coming up here in this next year, again, trying to figure out what it is that we do good and what it is that we need to do better. So
Right.
that's planning in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because John, I imagine business plan to you too is helping you manage the volume, right? You're not necessarily trying to generate a bunch of new business. You're trying to manage
No.
what you have and be as efficient as possible,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Trying to make, proficiency in time management and all of that is so crucial in volume control too, because you only have so many hours in a day, and I still want a life. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's easy to let this business take you by the tail.
you certainly can. It can go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Chelsea?
For me, starting out last year, the business planning was a little daunting just because you just don't know a lot and you don't know what direction. But the other people hit it on the head is that, you figure out what works for you and your personality, and like you say, what your strengths and weaknesses are. And this year for me, sitting down and doing the business planning, kind of having a year under my belt, that's exactly what it was just seeing your strengths and weaknesses and
Right.
and tweaking it to fit that.
Right. Yeah. Determining if it's something like, do I stop doing this, or do I just put more energy into learning it, or what, and those are real crucial decisions in moving your business forward, I think. Right.
Yeah. And especially in your first year, it is just a lot of trial and error.
Sure. No, absolutely. 100%. Bob, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main comment I'd have here is that it helps you control your business instead of your business controlling you. So everybody's heard the phrase, you have to spend time working on your business instead of in your business. And particularly the busier you get as an agent, the more your calendar is dictated by the deals you have going, the fires you're fighting, immediately. And so at least business planning, at least once a year, forces you to kind of stick your head up and say, okay, is this the life I want? Is this the business I want? Am I doing it the way I want to do it? Do I have some plan and intentionality around it rather than just being responsive all the time, which is what most of us can be in this business. It's a very firefighting business. And ideally you do a little bit of this along the way through the year, but at least once a year, if you can kind of push pause button and work on your business, it's good for you to be able to control your business instead of the other way around.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that. So in your opinion, what are the most important factors in implementing a successful business plan? And so this is kind of round robin. I think we can all do too. Maybe I'll start from right to left on this one and go back to Bob if you want to, and then we'll go the opposite way.
The most important factors. Well, I mean, first it starts with a year in review, right? So I like to look at what did we do this year, or what do we think, where do we think we're going to finish, or where do I think I'm going to finish the year? Number of closings, closed volume, closed commission income. Where were my sources of business? I really want to be very intentional about analyzing that and looking at what brought me closings this year as an agent, what's going to continue into the future. And then someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Christine mentioned a SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So really just being thoughtful about, where am I good and where am I weak, and what's the market going to do next year in terms of opportunity, and in terms of threat, what's the industry going to do next year that's going to cause it to be easier or harder for me to hit my goals. And if I have those things under my belt, then I can start thinking about, okay, what are the things that I'm going to do differently next year? I like an exercise that I call start, continue, stop. So I like to make 3 lists. What are the things I need to start doing next year that I'm not already doing? What are the things that I'm doing really well that I need to continue? And then what are the things, and I think this is probably the most important one, particularly the busier you get as an agent, what are the things that I'm doing that are a time sucker, that are a waste of time, that are not bringing me a return, they're not bringing me closings or opportunities, that I just need to abandon so that I can focus on the things that are working. So that start, continue, stop exercise for me has been really helpful.
Awesome. Does anybody want to add on to that, Chelsea?
No, like that was exactly for me too, is looking back at the last year and like you say, just that was the big thing, is stop doing the things that weren't working and redirect focus, funds, whatever, into doing the things that were working.
Sure. Jonathan?
Yeah, no, I think Bob hit that right on the head too. I don't think I can add anything else to that.
Yeah. All right. How about Ernie and Christine?
Well, a couple of things that stand out to me is really to know yourself and to be yourself. Because when we do that, obviously what we attract, we mesh much better with that opportunity. And so trying to be something you're not, or trying to be what maybe other agents are that maybe you've come in contact with, especially ones that maybe you don't necessarily want to be like, because
Right.
maybe they, especially if you've opposed them in a transaction and maybe some things that you were surprised how they did their, dealt with the transaction.
Right. Sure.
It really being yourself, knowing yourself, and just not so much a complacency type of feel, but really knowing what you are going to attract, what you're going to go after. And when it does come to you, it will be such a good fit for you. You'll actually enjoy it much more.
Business is easy. Yeah.
And I mean, it'll just give you that so much more attention to the deal and to the client, because the connection with the client is such a paramount thing. And that's something you can't force, because if you don't mesh, chances are they may move on to someone else.
Sure.
Especially if you're interviewing with them for a representation spot with them to sell or to buy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of competition out there, and we could probably do an hour just on that. But
Sure.
It's still surprising to me how much competition we have out there for that client. And
Sure.
we have to take it so seriously from the very first minute, and realize that, you know what, if it's absolutely not a good fit, I as an agent have to be okay to walk away and move on.
Sure. And
because
planning,
talk about a time sucker. Absolutely.
totally. And
trying
planning
to be something you're not will be a time consuming thing.
Yeah, and planning your business accordingly. Like, okay, this is the target we're going after. These are the kind of people we want to attract. This is where we can find them. I think implementing that in your business plan is a huge, absolute huge deal. So awesome. Thanks, you guys. All right. So this one I'll kind of open up to the panel. So prior to planning for the next year, what elements of your business do you review? And who wants to take that one first?
I can do it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So collecting all the data is probably the biggest thing too. But really looking at past transactions, the wheres, the hows, the whys, where do they come from, or how were they generated? Why did they initiate themselves? That's one little piece of it. Budget is obviously huge. Is what am I spending my money on? What do I need to not spend so much money on? Looking at where the market has been, what areas, here in Spokane, what areas are hot, what areas are not, what are the price ranges that I need to concentrate on, especially in this last year or two in the fast moving markets. I'm afraid there were clients I couldn't deal with just because of a price range they were in. And I felt bad about that, but again, only so many hours in a day. So knowing where the market was rolling at and planning accordingly is super important. And then trying to do the crystal ball thing of where our market is coming into next year. So that, prior to planning, there's a whole lots of information I got to pull together. And me and Brandon do that as a team. He looks at all the aspects of one side of the business. I look at the other side. And then we just make a list of all this stuff. So anyway, there you go.
So what I heard you say is, one, determine where your sources of business are coming from and track, the whys behind that. And, did you invest in that, or was that something organic, or, and invest appropriately? And then the other thing you talked about is like identifying areas of geographic areas
of the market. Of your
marketplace. And how are you, just out of curiosity, how are you getting those statistics or determining
Well,
is that
our
just
company
Paragon?
generates most of that already, which
Right.
makes it kind of nice. Yep. And also the MLS, obviously, you can quickly go in and analyze what areas of Spokane have the most turnover rate.
Yep.
So yeah, all of that's super
Okay.
important.
Yeah, cool. How about Chelsea? What things are you looking at for you?
For me, I spend a lot of time looking at the numbers, just the transactions and, the percentages that, have actually closed, and expenses and stuff, of course. So kind of tracking all of that. One of the big things that I looked at too was just kind of going back and reviewing each of my transactions and just kind of saying, that same thing of like what went well and what didn't go well, and what are some things I'd like to change, and analyzing some of those difficult transactions too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think that's hugely important. Looking at the transactions did not go smooth. I'm like, wow, was that a me thing? Was that a them thing?
Right.
How could I maybe prevented that? I mean, what communications could prevent that? Those type of things, or processes to put in place to prevent some of those issues from coming up. Huge.
Yes.
And that's a big deal, especially when you're starting out, because you're going to step in it more often. I mean, and unintentionally, right? Usually the more significant parts of the contract, you're going over with your manager and they're keeping track and all those things. It's more just the little communication things that maybe I didn't check with the lender often enough, or, and you get surprised by things that you can, implement your process going forward. How about you, Ernie, Christine, or sorry, Jonathan, did I cut you off?
I was just going to say, Chelsea, after 20 years, I still step in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
think
nice
we
to
all do,
pre-plan
right?
not to step in it, but you still do it.
Right.
Yeah, right. Which kind of goes back to the reasons why you plan, right? To have that focus to where you're like, okay, I've done a lot of positive things. So I made these measures, and I had this one kind of black marker. It was like, but it's easier to take that one kind of misstep or whatnot when you couch it in a grouping of success. And it keeps you focused on the eye and the prize. So Christine and Ernie?
One thing that comes to mind is how hard truly do I want to work next year? Is it out of need? Is it optional for us? This is our only stream of income, and we have two boys, heavy eating boys in college. And so, between that and healthcare, it's a full-time job. And so taking it that seriously, I think for us has been very helpful to be able to continually focus on that priority, because I call it survival, call it whatever you want.
Yeah, right.
And of course, even retirement down the road, whenever that happens to maybe show up. But I think that if we review the elements of the things that have worked for us so far, that helps sometimes to segue into the next year. There are market changes. Sure, interest rates go up and down, and there's those types of things that happen, which are out of our control totally.
Sure.
But the things we can control is to continue to do with what's working, and as best we can analyze that for forward motion as we go into the next year. That's great, but I think with the advent of COVID in our lives, it has thrown a curveball to every conceivable organizational plan out there, because it's been such a fluid change. It seems like every couple of months there's something else going on, or mask, no mask, big groups, small groups. And so because of that, it does take a continual look at not only the next year, but later this year or next month, and to be able to, the cliche, go with the flow, but some of it has to do with that. We're not quite the numbers guys as far as the analyzing certain things by the numbers. But what Coldwell Banker does provide, we do look at that, especially as it grows and as deals are closed, and really looking at what we have strengths in maybe the neighborhoods we want to go after, maybe, you know, and even recently cold calling canceled listings, which, you know,
Yeah.
I urge everybody to try it, and you'd be surprised how much fun you can have by doing that. It's the hardest thing you will ever probably do, by far. But it has been the most rewarding, and you know, we even may have a listing in the spring because of it.
Yeah.
But
Right. If you don't ask, like, you don't
it's
even try.
and I know Bob has mentioned this before, and it's important to repeat because it's worth repeating. All this is really a multi-pronged approach. It's like you have to have, you know, call it the irons in the fire, call it the whatever you want to call it, but you have to have those several things, those 2 or 3 things. Maybe it's only 2 things that you're good at, you feel comfortable at, and that you actually kind of enjoy doing, because that's received that way to prospects.
Yeah.
If they can tell that, hey, wow, they really are into this. They really, you know, they perceive that you're enjoying what you're doing and you're taking it very serious. That absolutely will add to our success, I think. And
focusing on focusing on the vital few, right? And I think that's absolutely important. And the time management piece, kind of what you're like, okay, well, how do we want to plan our life this next year? And what are our priorities? And prioritizing that time to either generate business, manage business, decrease business, increase business, you know, whatever it is. But that's totally valid. Bob, how about you? What other?
I mean, all that, and I mean, all great stuff. The only 2 things I'd maybe add would be, I even zoom out a layer and say, it's not just about the elements of my business that I review, but it's really my holistic life. So there's no such thing as the business Bob and the personal Bob and the family Bob. Like, I'm all one Bob, right? So I think when I'm doing business planning, it's important to zoom out and say, you know, take my temperature on how's my health generally as a person? How am I doing personally? How am I doing as a dad, as a spouse, as a business owner or operator, whatever it may be, and real, you know, spiritual, whatever it may be, financial health, like Ernie mentioned, you know, planning for the future, like that real gut check on where I'm at in my life, and am I where I want to be, or what do I want to, you know, do differently next year to get me closer to where I want to be. I think that's super important. And then the time spent, I think Jonathan mentioned it, but, you know, when you're just starting the business, maybe you can't spend the money that you'd like to on marketing and whatnot, but you got plenty of time to work on your business. And as you get more advanced and progress in your business, you've got less and less time and perhaps more money to be able to reinvest in your business. But time is a great equalizer, right? So we all have 24 hours in a day, and at least being able to say, hey, am I intentionally spending my time doing the things that bring me the best return and get me closer and closer to the goals that I might have? I think that's, you know, that's a crucial element that I take a look at.
Yeah, kind of back to the focus, you know, aspect of planning. Okay, cool. Let's dig into some kind of specifics here. What format do you use for your business plan? And I'll start with Chelsea maybe this time. Chelsea, what kind of format are you using?
Last year, I used the one through Coldwell Banker when we did the business planning sessions, and that, you know, worked great. It was really good, and I especially like the marketing yearly calendar. You know, that whole planner. That was something that I looked back on every single month this year, so that was great. This year, I've used the Ninja business planning paperwork, and it was like 30 pages almost. Yes. So it was very in-depth, but, you know, it went into a lot of that too, like Bob was talking about, like a lot of, you know, more like your personal life type stuff too, and really having that full big picture. So I really liked it.
And just as an aside, all of you, and outside, I might need to add this to Idaho Falls, so I apologize if you guys are on the call and I don't have it up, but in DeltaNet, under other resources and business planning, there is the 5 business planning videos, Ninja business planning videos with discussion, and the PDF for the Ninja Business Planner. So if you are looking for a format, the 2 things are on there. There's the Ninja Business Planning, and then there's the Coldwell Banker Business Planning format, whichever one you like. There's no wrong answers as to format, right? It's whatever the one you use is the one that works. So, Jonathan, how about you? What format are you using?
Over the past, oh gosh, probably 10 years, I think I have my little plan here. I have basically I break it down into 4 areas, just like Bob was talking. My first area is personal management, and really that's my goals and my dreams and the family vacation and what books I might read, and I mean, just kind of just like you said, a holistic approach to what my life might look like 5 or 10 years from now, and then maybe and then bring that into what do I got to do next year to get there. And so, yeah, so and then the next piece of it is this pre-planning evaluation. That's all the number crunching and stuff I got to do to make that whatever that goal is. And in the personal management, I'm going to establish, like, we may need a new car next year, or my oldest granddaughter, we're setting up college, funds. And so all that kind of stuff, and whatever that price tag is that might reflect itself for next year is kind of where everything else is going. And then of course I got to quantify all those numbers, and what did that mean, and where is that going, and how's that going to look, and how many listings do I got to get, how many sales do I got to get, how many listing appointments do I got to get those listings, and how many people do I got to talk to get that. So that's all quantified. Yeah, it kind of makes my head hurt for about 2 weeks, but I think
it would make
well worth the effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last part's just the pro forma. That's just all the numbers. How much should I make? How much should I spend? Where the business account's at, and what our payroll looks like, and all the ending numbers. So that's in a nutshell, and it's 12 pages. That's but I used to be Chelsea, I used to be like 35 or 40 pages in a business plan. Right. But my life is more simplified now.
Sure. Yeah. And what I like, what I heard you say, Jonathan, that I think is valid is like determining, like, what are my expenses going to be for next year? What is my overhead? Is it going to increase? Do I need to plan for a new car? Do I need to, what things do I need to put into play? And as far as my activities go, to generate the business I need to cover my expenses. And
exactly.
Just that general 50,000 foot view is a very important one. How about you, Ernie, Christine?
One thing I'm constantly reminded of, probably daily, is that we are running our own business. Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to not think of it that way. And I can see how people could fall into that. And so it's a constant fight for me to just keep that at the forefront, that, what, I have to treat it as a business. I have to promote it as a business, but I also have to use 2 very strong 4-letter words: hard work. And if I'm thinking this is going to be anything but hard work, I'm fooling myself. And so for the effort that we put in, what's the expectation on the other side, or what's going to come back from that effort? These deals don't fall from the sky and hit us on the head. Oh, we have a client, or we have we can do all the marketing we want, but really it boils down to the hard work. And that is the one thing that I have to constantly, I don't have to purposely remind myself, I experience it every day. So I go to work every day. To my detriment, many times I don't take as much time off as I should. So that's something I have to work out, and I have to maybe reprioritize that. And so I totally get that. But for the first time in our lives, literally, we have 2 boys away at college. And so we're having to just deal with, on a positive side, maybe less distraction and maybe more time to put focus on some of these things. But of course, that'll change when summer comes around and they come back.
Oh, for sure. What format do you guys use? Ernie? Is this something that
Coldwell Banker? We've
Okay,
both
cool.
been through the business planning that Bob has done, that course. And so
Yep.
we use that. And then we just keep it flexible. And it's something that we have to do in the business that we're in. And it's been, talked about a little bit, but just the last couple of years, we've had to focus, having had open houses, being, a primary source. And then that led to, referrals after you help those clients, and then they're able to refer people to you. From that, we had to bring in something else. So we had to really take care of those referrals. And so, we can talk about, different things that we do, different things that Coldwell Banker offers, and we utilize those things and stay in touch with those people so we can get more referrals. And then like what Ernie talked about, I've been really determined to get somebody, on the phone or knocking on the door, a for sale by owner that I find out there that I truly believe that we add value and that they've got to get their home listed with us. And when you just know who you are and you just really believe that, you're helping them. And I truly believe that. And I've gotten to that point, especially in the last year, where I'm going after it. The for sale by owners or canceled. And like he said, one's coming up probably February or March. So we've got to be flexible, where you don't know what's going to happen in the market, like the world where COVID came out, in the last couple of years, and having to make that change. We know we're good face to face, and we're okay on the phone, and we have some good emails, and we're fast texters, a little bit of social media, but really take a look at who you are. If you don't want to ever make those calls and you want to go in all in on social media, then go in, do it for a time, see what returns you get from that, and then go to something else. Because if you don't, you can't make a mortgage payment in 5-6 months, you've got to switch to something else, right?
Right. Totally.
Can I add this just for a second here?
Yeah.
This is an invaluable thing. We've got probably 150 for your friends postcards.
From your friends.
They're going to go out today.
Cool.
And a lot of times, to try and track things and kind of know, well, to the people that maybe we don't talk very often to on the phone because they're hard to get a hold of, or they don't want to be gotten a hold of. We have to track them somehow. And in addition to your friends, and sometimes we put little notes on there, how the baby, how's the baby doing? Just so they know that it's actually still coming from people and not a computer, right?
Sure.
But we, not to spend too much time on this, but we don't have these mailed out by the company. We get all these to us in bulk.
Hand deliver them.
And we don't hand deliver them, but we put a stamp on everyone.
Oh, okay.
We put a label on everyone, and that reminds us of every single client in our sphere every month.
Yeah.
So all these
about them.
And that's something that, you brought up something really important there, that doing some of that stuff manual also requires you to review your kind of hot list, warm list, and everyone else all the time, which is what you should always be doing. Bob, how about, I'm assuming, Bob, you used the format that you actually created. So that's why I left you to last. I was really not.
Eric, I did kind of. I think here's the thing about format. To Chelsea's point, it could be 30 some odd pages, or it can be 60 pages, whatever. I think the error that a lot of folks make is thinking that it has to be this structured thing, like I'm going to take it to the bank to get an SBA loan or something like that. And it doesn't, right? It's really what it is. It's about what is going to remind you of your why and the things that you're working toward, the things that other people have already mentioned. And ideally you pull it out every other week or at least once a month and reevaluate, like, how am I tracking towards this goal? I think the two bookends that I'd note would be, from a structure standpoint, like the two most important things for me, beyond all the numbers and everything else, what's my why? So what are the things that I want to have? Who do I want to be? And what are the things I want to do in my life, right? If I can really be intentional about that, I call that the pin it up on my mirror kind of stuff, like, my mirror at home. What's the stuff that I want to remind myself why I'm doing the slog every day as an agent.
Right. Yeah.
To keep me motivated to do the hard
Yeah.
stuff. And then the other bookend is really, what are the specific marketing and prospecting activities that I'm doing? So if there's one thing that most agents do not do that I've seen, it's intentionally plan out their year for marketing. So once you identify what your goals are, how many deals you want to do, and where those deals are coming from, now build your marketing plan ahead of time for the year so that you don't miss important deadlines, and so you actually have some intention around that versus just, oh, when I think of it, I'm going to send out this piece, you know. I think those two
Right.
things right there are the fundamental elements that if you don't have those things in your plan, you're probably missing out.
Right. That's awesome. So, and now kind of lead us in is, first of all, is there any questions from our group on kind of what we've talked about so far as formats and things that we're doing to prep for our business plan? I haven't seen, if I look at the chat, I don't see anything in the Q&A. So we'll just keep rolling because we're kind of we're running up on a little bit of time issues. So I want to make sure we get through all the questions. So what key indicators do you consider when planning for your next year? Some of you kind of talked about this, Bob. You said, you know, I look at all my marketing efforts, maybe sources of business and ROI. What are some other key indicators that fall into that?
You want to start with me this time?
Yeah, I'll start with you.
So I would go out on a limb and say there are 3 numbers that if every agent could tell me that they were tracking these numbers and could tell me at any point in time what their numbers were, I could probably predict where they're at in their business. How many contacts per day do I make with people, whether it's in my sphere or outside? And contacts could be calls, emails, social media, conversation, some contact. What's my daily number of contacts? How many appointments did I go on with potential buyers or sellers? And how many listings did I take? If agents knew those 3 numbers and forgot about everything else, but if they knew those 3 numbers, I would tell you that those 3 metrics right there would probably be enough to predict the success in their business and how and where they're going to land for the year.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely.
How about you, Jonathan?
That's it right there. What Bob said in a nutshell is really knowing what you're doing and knowing what you need to do in order to get to where you're going. And that's the way I lay it out, exactly the same. It's like, how many transactions do I need? How many people do I have to talk to get those transactions? Those indicators really drive every day of your business. And you can relax some days, you know, if you want to.
Right.
But so, my weekly goal would be to gain 2 new clients every single week. You know, and if this week I gained 4 clients, it'd be like, all right, I'm taking next week off.
Right. Yeah.
Not going to happen
Right,
because I know
yeah.
next week I may not get any new clients.
Right. But I think the nice thing I like about the planning process too is when you get granular about like, okay, this is how many people I need to contact in a week. At least you feel some sort of accomplishment. Like you can be like, okay, I contacted all my people today and I have a free afternoon, which is so weird. And I'm accustomed to, like, I'm going to go do something for my family or for myself or whatever, and just take some time to decompress and breathe a little bit too. And so I think that's one of the kind of other side benefits of kind of planning things out in some sort of granular. Just out of curiosity, how many people do you need to contact for a transaction? Do you know that number? I didn't ask you this question up front, so I apologize. I'm springing it on you, but I'm just kind of curious about that.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you because you just mentioned it. Yeah.
So this last year has been a little bit interesting because just the chaos of everything that has occurred. But in order to seal one deal, my percentages are actually pretty good. So I typically land about 80%.
Wow.
The people that I talk to, I will gain as a client.
Wow, that is
And of
awesome.
course, if they're referred to me, that's even better.
Sure, right. Yeah. So do you set up like, I need to talk to 10 people this week then, or like what's your
Yeah, just like Bob was just mentioning, I have my scheduled people that I talk to. And so every day I have past
Sphere
clients,
people.
because I've been in the business for quite some time. So
Sure.
yeah, so if you've been in for, a year, my stalking, I stalk you every year
Sure.
on your anniversary.
Yeah.
But along with that, in the pipeline, we have clientele in the pipeline that are maybe somebody that I talked to last year about selling their home that they just haven't made a decision on. But all of those people are all tracked out, Brandon maps, and make sure that we have everybody still kind of up to date. But it's constant. And so I have, I have people that we're constantly communicating with, and then every now and then somebody else comes into the picture because of a referral or who knows what.
Right.
Sure. But yeah, that trying to pinpoint a number like that, just like Christine, and just like they were saying, it's ebb and flow every day.
Right.
My business plan, I have written on this thing, but it changes constantly, and it has to.
Yeah, right.
Constantly keep it in front of you and constantly make changes to it as the year goes by.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of my boxing days when the trainer would say, everyone's got a plan until they get hit, right? And that's when you dive into the business and things are happening. It's like, okay, how am I going to measure? So Christine and Ernie, what did you raise your hand on this one?
One thing that came to mind is that, as I already mentioned, I'm not a numbers guy particularly, but
Sure.
but I absolutely agree with that. X amount of attempts. I mean, you look at kind of off the subject matter for a second, but when you look at the all-time best baseball players, okay, you look at the all-time list, and you can go as big of a list as you want of the biggest home run hitters.
Yep.
And invariably in that same list, you will find
strikeouts.
a majority of them that also have another record that they hold, the amount of strikeouts.
Right.
So, so when you're doing, like, I relate this to like an open house. For the first couple of years, literally every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I was doing open houses, and I still do them as often as I can and do. And to me, that really is like getting up to bat.
Right.
And
sure,
it's really the only time in this career that people will come to you.
Yep.
They maybe haven't met you before. You don't own the house, but you're there hosting it.
Right.
But they're coming to us. And so that's really a chance to swing the bat. And for me, the quality of the client, it can be much higher, or at least, having them as a part of your sphere to work on over time.
Adding them to your sphere is a great.
Absolutely. I have clients that I met at an open house 2 years ago and just sold them a house.
Yep.
And I have some that are even longer ago than that. Not all of them, but select ones that I still keep in contact with, and they will eventually turn into something. So you kind of have that plate spinning, and then you also have the things, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? So you got hopefully 2 or 3 plates spinning at one time to where you're going to have a result from that and get into contract. And so for me, multiple things, but less of a numbers thing. I think the numbers for me will work themselves out, but I have to make it a lifestyle. Continue
the time more. Maybe it's more of a time commitment to you that generates the numbers versus
absolutely.
Okay.
And this last year, we actually in the spring went on more listing appointments than we had the prior year, but we actually listed more homes that year than we did this last year. So it's like, even though we put out the numbers and the market in the spring, oh boy, I mean, if we could have brought these homes to the market, it would have been insane. But still, we do a seller's net sheet for every seller, and we work the numbers, like he said, we're not a numbers person, but maybe I am a little bit more. So, and we'll do that, present it. And they were like, no, we're just not getting enough. It's like, you're not getting enough. You'll never get more, but yet, you just have to keep working. And every contact that we make, we put it in this book, because that way we both have access to it and we start jotting down, all of their information. Then when we get to the home office or wherever, it goes in to, our system. But here's just a couple of things. Ask yourself every time you meet somebody, or say those failed listing appointments, will come back to them, right? But we're going to ask, what else? What next? What else? What next?
Sure.
And you just have to go home, go back to your computer, whatever, and go, what else do I do for them? What next do I do for them? Do
Sure.
you shoot off an email, a text, a follow-up, a card, something, and then don't stop.
Right.
Keep it going and
Right.
determine that you're going to out-communicate any other agent out there.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me, one lady in particular, she became a realtor. She was one in another state. And she said, I just decided I'm going to do what you did. You emailed me every week. And you said, how about this one? The fireplace is da-da-da-da-da, but it could work for the dogs, blah, blah, blah. Keep it going and out-communicate. It'll turn into a client for you.
And also, just like we hear the term assuming the sale, we need to assume the client a lot more.
All the time.
Oh,
We need
absolutely.
to assume that client and say, you know what?
Yeah.
They may be asking the most trivial question of me right now at the open house or whatever, or in passing. I need to answer that question immediately. I need to take it seriously because it's serious for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of times solidifies that connection and relationship.
Yeah, and I think to the point, like proactive activities are going to rule the day, right? Whatever that is. And one of my agents had a little sign on his desk. He didn't have any formal plan, but he had a sign on his desk and it said, "Do something," right, in front of him every day. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? What do we do next? So, all right, I'm going to go to my next slide. So, Chelsea, I'll get to you. I apologize. We're getting run up on time.
No, that's all good. I think they covered it well.
Kind of covered it. Yeah, it's pretty thorough. What are some examples of adjustments you've made in your business based on your business planning analysis? And I think, Chelsea, you're going through this right now for the first time. Your first year in, you just kind of went through what you did last year. What are maybe some examples of adjustments you might be making this year?
The biggest thing was in the marketing. Like I love the From Your Friends. I'm going to keep doing that one. Like I tried the door knocking and stuff, and that it didn't go well for me.
Sure.
So just making those adjustments, and then like someone said, as far as starting out your first year, you don't have the most money to just be putting into it and stuff. So having to be very conscious of where you're putting your money and really making sure that you're getting the best out of that. But as even as far as like last year with the yearly marketing calendar, there were tons of stuff where I erased it and I filled in something else, or as the year went going, I got different ideas. So I had those ideas coming into this year. So like everybody said, it's not just like you fill it out and that's it and it's done. You're always making changes and adjustments to it.
Right. How often, just out of curiosity, how often are you referring back to your business plan, Chelsea?
To the marketing calendar, I was looking at it every month because like Bob said, you're planning ahead. And so, the month before, I'm already starting to plan what I'm going to do the next month and really staying on top of that. And then, like with the business planning that I did with the Ninja one this year and stuff, that's something that they said also was, review it regularly, looking at it, like you say, once a week, once a month. And I totally agree that your why is a really important thing because, like it or not, we all kind of get in the grind and you do lose your motivation here and there. And you kind of have to re-up it.
You don't have that focus for sure. No, that's completely legit. Jonathan, what are some examples of adjustments you've made in your business based on your review?
Way too many to count. I know we were talking earlier.
My favorite example is why I can't enter the discussion here because you came into me one day in 2010 and you told me what?
I said, I'm not doing open houses anymore.
Oh,
So yeah, it was just one of those things in the business plan. It's like you have so many other avenues of things coming in, and the percentage of the turnover rate for open houses for me didn't justify the time. And so, yeah, and a lot of things in my business plan, and it's really the processes. So all the processes that I do that bring in new business is the processes that change. So either I'm making a process better, or I'm eliminating a process altogether. But because, yeah, again, it's the process that controls whether it's successful or not. And so, so like this year, we had, well, over the last couple of years with Brandon on board, we've had so much stinking business. The volume is difficult to control. And it's the process of the transaction and what happens and who does what and what the coordination is. And so in all of that is about making it, freeing up more time so that you can make those other business gaining processes better. So
right.
phone calls and follow-ups and all the things that Chelsea was, they were just talking about with the clientele and who they are and where I'm going next with them. And you can't do all of that if you're still wrapped up in all of the transaction coordination stuff and putting out fires and
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So reviewing the processes basically to make them more efficient, to where you have more time to do the things you need to be doing.
It pretty much that's it.
No, that makes sense. How about Christine and Ernie? What adjustments have you made in your business?
We've absolutely made adjustments like everybody does and will going forward. But I think the one thing that we've changed, or at least put additional effort into, is dealing with our existing sphere that is not only part of our sphere, but actually former clients.
Yes.
Because those are the people that they already know us. They've already gone through a transaction with us.
Right.
And those are the people that either will or won't give you referrals. And this last year, we've had more referrals than ever before.
That's awesome.
Off of previous clients. But again, keeping all the plates spinning, right?
Right.
There'll be open houses and other things.
Generate, yeah.
You know, we have not been complacent on that at all, and knowing that, wow, we keep continuing to just make that effort to communicate. And we even this last spring, when COVID in the early spring was really bad, and there was a lot of sheltering going on and all that, we actually handpicked, I think there was maybe 50 clients, and we sent them pizza cards, gift cards for a pizza. And we put a letter in there. Hey, we're sorry that we have to shelter in place, but here's a little something that maybe
Thinking of you.
Yeah, thinking of you. And that went over real well. I mean, that was money that, I mean, money doesn't grow on trees, and it's hard to spend the money on a bulk purchase of gift cards. But for us, at least at that time, in that year, with that going on, it went over really, really well.
And it was heartfelt, and clients sent us pictures of their families eating the pizza, like we're out, cool. we're doing something, or we're at home, and it's a good feeling.
Right, that's awesome. So, I mean, kind of where something that I think is helpful for the people watching too, is that you guys are in that 5th year where you're really transitioning, and maybe this is even in your 30, you kind of start transitioning from eat what you kill, go out and find new stuff, to like more of an agrarian, like I got to grow this garden that I have, that I've created, and make sure I don't lose any of those folks that I have put into the pipeline in the past. And so, and that's a big shift in your mindset when you get to that space. And that's where the programs we offer, like, the newsletter programs and the from your friends, and those things are really low hanging fruit and very affordable to implement. So if anybody's watching who doesn't know about those programs, please reach out to your manager and talk to them. Bob, did you have anything to add on that one as far as adjustments?
I just remember one quick. When I was early in my career, I was in my mid-20s, and most of my clients were first-time buyers, right? And I just remember having a very clear awareness, like after my 2nd year in the business, hey, my average sales price is lower than the market. And I'm really buyer heavy in the business, and everybody in real estate always tells you, you list, you last. And just having that intentional decision to shift off of first time buyers to, at the time I did first time sellers as part of my marketing program. And instantly raised my average sales price, instantly balanced my buyer to seller ratio so that I was more, focused on listings. And so, that's just one example of just kind of an aha that I had in my career, just by being aware of those two little numbers.
Yeah, and listings are scalable, right? Buyers are not. So that's absolutely something that if you're first doing it, you should keep that in mind. I'm going to start with Chelsea on this one, because you're brand new to this, and you've kind of done your trial and error period. What are some of the biggest challenges you've had with the planning process, and then how have you addressed those challenges?
Just sitting down and doing it.
Taking the time.
New for me. Yeah, taking the time. And I would say, honestly, for me, just getting past my own doubts, I guess, for myself, of like, oh, can I actually make that much money? Oh, can I, actually do this job and this work? And so it's just more so getting past the insecurities.
Your own, what's in your own head, right? Because I think we all set in that box that we live in, and like, well, this is I couldn't possibly make more than this much money, or I mean? We set our own limits, and so kind of challenging that, right? And saying,
it is.
I think I can.
That voice in your head.
Why can't I do that, right? I mean, because that's self-talk. We program ourselves. Like, there's nobody else doing it for us, right? Jonathan, did you have any?
I just go right along with her.
Taking the time.
If you don't put it down, it won't happen. It just won't. And I find this year after year after year of doing this business planning, and you're doing your dreams and goals and trying to figure out what that magic number is going to be. How much do I have to make? And I'll just tell you, I think we make it almost every single year.
Right.
Yep. And it's all about planning, I think the hardest thing, a biggest challenge, other than trying to establish what it is that I want to get out of this next year, is the data collection. With every single transaction, you have to collect all those little pinpoints of data, like where did it come from, and what was its original listing price versus what it sold at, the day that you got the listing versus the day that it sold at. So all the dates and times and places and all of those things are so stinking important. When it comes time to sit down now and reanalyze everything that I just did this year. So
just out of curiosity, how are you tracking all of that data? Are you doing it digitally, or are you doing?
Oh, actually, we use an Excel spreadsheet, which makes it pretty simple, because then you can total out and accumulate different columns that you need to for whatever it is that you're looking for to track those numbers on. And I'll just tell you that's another one of the things this year that we are reanalyzing to make our process a little bit better, because there's a couple of more key indicators we'd like to add to find, just to make sure we're tracking everything as closely as we can. So we can plan for next year, the year after that. But I would say that was probably one of the biggest challenge is set your goal. Set your goal. That's big. All right. And then collect your data. I would say they're the same.
Okay. That's awesome. That's good. Ernie, Christine, do you have anything to add to that?
Just a piggyback on what Jonathan just said. We ask ourselves, what is the expectation that we have out of our business? And I think it's a good question. And we're all in different places. We're in different times of life. We have different, skill sets. We used to do different things. And, some of us are part-time, some of us are full-time. And so just be that individual and ask the question for yourself, what is the expectation that you have? What are you wanting to do? And then just to what Chelsea said a little bit, just continue to be a learner. So read read, watch YouTube, and continue to learn. Don't get sucked up into it to where then you stop working and you
Right.
just turn into
Yeah, getting ready to get ready, right?
Yeah. because
Yeah.
you can just get sucked into all of this, but continue to learn about people, about their motivations, learn about money, and learn about your own thoughts and feelings and what you feel about money.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's going to have an impact on how you talk with people and how you communicate with people. And it's just those things that we have from growing up, however our mom and dad, whatever our family was.
Sure.
We get all of that. So we might have some adjustments that we need to make so that we can just not think of money as a bad thing,
Right.
but really want our clients to get the most out of their, the sale of their home and just go after it. So
Sure.
I think being a constant
Awesome.
learner is another good thing to put in there.
Yeah, awesome. So last question, you guys. I know we're kind of run up on time here. So quickly, if you were give advice to someone creating their first business plan for real estate, what would it be? And I'll start with Bob on this one.
Don't overthink it. Just do it. Whatever you do it and get it done. Don't feel like this pressure that you have to produce this big crazy thing. And then I would say the other piece is don't cheat yourself and set your goal too low. To Jonathan's point, pretty much every year I've hit my target, and I think, what if I aim just a little bit higher? I wonder what could have happened. I think those are the two things that I would encourage anybody looking at making their first plan, like really go after it. Challenge yourself.
No, absolutely. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, even going back to Bob's original piece too, is making sure you know your why. The why is so stinking important too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with what do I need to have to create my first business plan, but start with the why. Why am I doing this? And how important is this to me? The bigger and the deeper the why is, that's the thing that drives you every single day.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Ernie, Christine, do you have anything?
Yes, if you were to interview pretty much most people that start their business, they would have a lot of similar things that they'll tell you. But the one thing that I kind of repeating is that, yes, it kind of will and should maybe run your life for a period of time because, you really are giving it that focus and devoting whatever is necessary to get momentum and get that big ball rolling.
Sure.
And that is really, I don't know if it's something they say at real estate school nowadays. I don't know. This is the hardest career I've ever had, but the most rewarding career I've ever had.
Absolutely.
But the reward comes from the work, and the work is defined by having some kind of a plan and following some kind of a plan that works for you. And don't get overwhelmed by the numbers, but you have to work at it every day. A lot of it does not come natural.
No.
It doesn't to me.
Yeah, luck is largely made, isn't it? Right. And so no, thanks for that. Chelsea, did you have anything you want to bookend us and round us out for the hour here?
No, I agree with Bob. I think set it a little bit higher. You'll surprise yourself. And then, for me too, being in my first year, I've just had to learn a lot of patience. That like you say, you're going to learn as you go. And I came from a background riding horses and stuff, and kind of took for granted that I grew up as a kid doing it, and it was just all second nature, and you just didn't really have to think too hard about, you just knew.
Sure, you do
and
it,
walking into something brand new was kind of a shock for me, and I've really had to learn that to just be patient and know that you're just going to learn along the way.
And I think that's the biggest thing about this job. And I tell all the new agents I train this, and I know Michelle does too. It's go out and do stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we'll figure out how to do it, because you can't prepare for all the variables of every transaction, right? It's really important to have forward proactive motion. Back to what Christine and Jonathan, Bob and Chelsea all said, I'm going out and I'm proactively approaching people and in different contexts But that is what's going to generate the business. It's not sitting waiting for the phone to ring, right? And or reading books on how to do real estate, and then not generating anything, because you're going to learn by doing, and that's what hopefully our company offers, the amount of resources you can lean on to make those transactions happen once you generate them. And that's the idea. So you guys have been awesome. I want to thank you so much. We're a little over time. If there's any questions and answers, we can take a couple minutes for that. I don't really see anything, I don't think. So I really want to thank you all for your time today. It's been awesome, and your input has been invaluable. And again, to point to some resources for the people watching, we have the business planning videos and materials on DeltaNet under other resources and business planning. That's where those exist. And there's the two kinds. There's the Coldwell Banker format, and there's the Ninja business planning format. So feel free to take advantage of those resources if you're planning your next year and you're coming up on the next couple of weeks. And hopefully, it's a little bit lighter activity to where you can kind of take some time away and focus. I think that's your highest dollar per hour activity, is making these plans. I think you can all agree on that. So again, thanks you guys so much for the day. I appreciate it. And thanks for all those in attendance. And anything, I see some chat stuff, anything in there? Okay, no, just all good. So have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week. And thanks so much for all you do. All right, guys.
See you, Eric.
All right, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.